So today, we're going to talk about something huge. How did the world go from the war to end all wars to, well, an even bigger one? We're diving into how a really fragile peace just shattered, leading to the most devastating conflict in human history.
So, how does something like a world war even start? I mean, really, how does it begin? It's almost never just one thing. You can't just circle a date on the calendar and go, yep, right there, that's the moment everything fell apart. No, it's not that simple. It's not like World War I with a single assassination that lit the fuse. The road to World War II is different. It's not about one big bang that changes everything in a second. Instead, think of it like a line of dominoes, a whole series of them, all lined up. Each event, each crisis knocks over the next one, and then the next one, until war goes from just a scary thought to something that's absolutely going to happen. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to follow that chain, domino by domino. All right, so let's start with domino number one. The peace treaty that ended World War I, the Treaty of Versailles. Now, this thing was supposed to create a lasting peace, right? A whole new world order. But, well, instead of building a solid foundation, it basically planted a bunch of time bombs for the next big war.
And you can see right here just how unstable this whole thing was from the get-go. First off, you had the German army telling everyone back home that they weren't really defeated. Nope, they were stabbed in the back by their own politicians. This was a huge, dangerous myth. Then you've got these brand new countries like Czechoslovakia being created, but with huge German populations suddenly finding themselves as minorities. Can you see the problem there? And on top of all that, Germany was forced to take 100% of the blame for the war. To make matters worse, the brand new League of Nations, America's big idea, well, the US refused to even join it. It was crippled before it even started.
And then there was this, a bill for £6.6 billion. In today's money, it's an absolutely astronomical sum. It was the final nail in the coffin. There was no way Germany could ever pay this back. It just destroyed their new democratic government, created economic chaos, and, you guessed it, fueled a massive desire for revenge.
Okay, so Germany is already on its knees economically. That sets the stage perfectly for our next domino to fall. And it's a big one, the 1929 Wall Street crash. An economic tsunami that started in America was about to hit Germany, and hit it hard. For Germany, the fallout was catastrophic. I mean, just look at that number. 6 million people unemployed by 1932. Imagine that. Your life savings, gone, wiped out overnight. When people are that desperate, they start looking for anyone who can offer a solution, any solution. And this is the perfect breeding ground for extremist politicians like Adolf Hitler.
And you can see the result plain as day right here. This chart tells the whole story. As unemployment just goes through the roof, look what happens to the votes for Hitler's Nazi party. They explode. It's a direct correlation. He promised to make Germany strong again, to give people jobs, and millions of desperate Germans were listening. And here's the really clever and terrifying part. He used democracy to kill democracy. So in January 33, he's appointed chancellor. Just a month later, the German parliament building burns down, and he uses that as an excuse to grab emergency powers. By March, forget it, all other political parties are banned. And less than 2 years after taking office, he's the absolute dictator, the Führer. So while Germany's in this crazy internal transformation, and the rest of the world is basically distracted by the Great Depression, the next set of dominoes starts to wobble. Other aggressive countries decided, hey, maybe now was a good time to test the rules. And what they found was, there really weren't any.
You see this pattern of total failure right here? First up, 1931, Japan invades Manchuria and China. What does the League of Nations do? They condemn it. That's about it. So Japan just says, okay, see ya, and walks out of the League. A few years later, Mussolini's Italy invades Abyssinia, another member of the League. This time, the League tries sanctions, but they're so weak, they're basically a joke. The message to any dictator watching was crystal clear. You can get away with it. And that absolute failure of the international community leads us straight to our fourth domino, the Spanish Civil War. Now, you might think this was just a local conflict, but no, it became a testing ground, a proxy war for all the major powers in Europe.
Yeah, Spain was basically a dress rehearsal for World War II. It was brutal. Hitler sent over his new air force, the Luftwaffe, to practice. Mussolini sent over 50,000 volunteer troops. They tested out all their new weapons and terrifying new tactics, like bombing civilian towns like Guernica. And what were Britain and France doing? They declared a policy of non-intervention. They just watched.
So now Hitler and Mussolini are absolutely convinced that the democracies are weak, that they have zero appetite for a fight. So, naturally, they pushed. And that brings us to the fifth domino, a word you've probably heard before: appeasement.
Hitler's playbook at this point was simple, and honestly, it was working perfectly. Step 1, make an outrageous demand. Step 2, face zero consequences. Step 3, make an even bigger demand. He marches troops into the Rhineland, totally against the Versailles Treaty. Nothing happens. He annexes his home country of Austria. Again, nothing. So then he turns his eyes to a part of Czechoslovakia.
Now, Britain and France were desperate to avoid another war like the last one. I mean, who could blame them? So they try to cut a deal. It's called the Munich Agreement. They basically give Hitler the piece of Czechoslovakia he wants. In return, he has to promise this is it, no more land grabs. The British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, flies home, waves a piece of paper, and famously says he's secured peace for our time.
That promise, it was completely worthless. Not even 6 months later, Hitler's tanks rolled in and took the rest of Czechoslovakia. Appeasement wasn't just a failure, it was a catastrophe. It didn't stop a war. All it did was convince Hitler he could do whatever he wanted and made a bigger, more terrible war almost a certainty.
Okay, so appeasement is dead and buried. The world is now racing towards the cliff edge. The final dominoes are about to fall, and they're going to fall fast.
And then came the move that shocked everybody. I mean, this was the ultimate plot twist. Nazi Germany and the Communist Soviet Union, two regimes that absolutely hated each other, signed a non-aggression pact. It was an unbelievably cynical deal. And they had a secret part of the agreement, too. They would split Poland right down the middle. For Hitler, this was the masterstroke. It meant he wouldn't have to fight a war on two fronts. It was the final green light.
So with his back covered in the east, Hitler didn't wait. Just a week later, on September 1st, 1939, German troops storm into Poland. That was the final trigger. Britain and France declare war. The chain reaction is finally complete. The last domino has fallen.
So when you look back at it all, from that broken peace treaty to the global depression to the total failure to confront aggression early on, you see how each step made the next one almost unavoidable. And it just leaves you with this really haunting question. Was there a point where it could have been stopped? Was there one domino, if they had just held it up, that could have prevented the whole chain from collapsing? It's a sobering thought, isn't it, that the biggest conflicts don't just happen. They're built one bad decision at a time.